Welcome back to Awkward Chats.
Yeah, and in today's Awkward Chats, we've got a bunch of stories about going back to Orlando, seeing Disney World.
Yeah, we've had another busy month, and we crammed a lot into the first 2 weeks of August between our Phoenix trip, our Orlando trip, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things. So, like, hotels, okay? Marriott versus Hilton. Yeah, Marriott versus Hilton, really. Those are the two big contenders. And then, there's a couple, like, kind of speckled throughout that we've stayed at. But we're going to talk about which one we think is better. And then
we'll talk about we're considering moving, and one of our locations is Orlando. So we're going to sort of flush out that on the podcast. We told each other we'd save it to the podcast to talk about everything. So this is going to be a new discussion for all of us, just kind of figuring out what the next move is.
That means he's been writing down his arguments, and I haven't wrote down shit. I've just been saying stuff and passing, and so this will be funny because you guys can see he planned for this, and I just showed up because that's sometimes how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes. All right, so let's jump into it. So let's talk about our trip back to Orlando. Well, we should actually talk about. So what have you been up to?
So what have we been up to? Well, we just got back from Orlando, and I'm getting ready to go to Charleston.
Again, yeah.
In a week, and so this might not necessarily been like what we've been up to, because really not much has changed between our August podcast and September podcast. Not a whole lot changed there. So I'll talk about what we are going to do. I'm going to go see Zach Bryan with my friend, and I know 2 songs, and I'm just going to go and have a good time. So I got that coming up.
Yeah, that's good.
What do you got coming up? What's on your schedule other than, well, we all know what's on Gary's schedule. He's got to edit all of the videos for the last several weeks, really.
Yeah. Well, I've got 30-some videos to edit, and so I've got to sort of get them done and get work through them. We've got some stuff coming. Got to get that set up, and then got to start packing because we'll be actually leaving in a few months.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah. I was like, wait, where are we going? I literally in my head was like, what trip in a few months? No, for real. We will need... So whether we decide to stay locally or move out of state...
We're leaving this apartment complex for sure.
Yeah, we're 100% not renewing this lease. We have lived here for 3 years, and it just... we're done. We're over it. And things have fallen through the wayside for this apartment complex. And we actually last year...
That's being generous.
Well, last year we even talked about leaving last year, but just with how my schedule was and just we had a lot of things going on at the time. We just didn't have a lot of time to devote to moving, and it wasn't that we were necessarily 100% sold on leaving. We wanted to get something that might have been better equipped, but once we started to sit back and think about all of the stuff that we would need to do to move, and at this point I think it was like February or March, and our lease ends in April, we were just kind of like, it's just going to be easier to stay here, and we were like, we're never home. So, half the year we're gone. So is it really that big of a deal? So that was last year's thinking. But this year, for sure, we're definitely not renewing this lease. And we've got a couple of cities on our radar. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But talking about our Disney trip.
Yeah, let's start. So we went to Orlando for the first time in like 4 years.
4 years? We left December 2019.
So it was a long time. And our last trip to Magic Kingdom, which was our last sort of Orlando theme park that we went to, was not a good experience. For those that don't know, we were moving and we hired one of the moving services. Their name was Roadrunner. Do not recommend. Stay away from them as well as possible. And they also have like 40 other names that they go by. So
that's a whole other podcast we can talk about too. If you guys want to know more, like we can do a moving podcast and talk about some, tips and tricks when we get closer to that. But
yeah. And anyway, so that day was horrible. We were in the parks and then had to leave and deal with all this stuff. So that was not a good experience for our leaving. So this was a first time back. We flew in the night before. We stayed at the Swan and Dolphin Reserve. And you can find all of these videos over on our YouTube channel, Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, if you want to watch us go through that journey.
Yeah, see, that hotel
was fantastic. That was awesome.
So awesome. And I think it's the stay that definitely has made a huge tipping point for me in my decision about Marriott versus Hilton. But we'll get into that.
We'll get to that in a minute. But we got there. The food, by the way, sucked at the hotel because we were going to have it the first night and it was not very good. But we got to the hotel, and then the next day we went to Epcot, and that was our first time back in any amusement park on that side of the Mississippi.
Yeah, and it was a hot day.
It was.
But I'm gonna be honest.
So hot.
Weirdly enough, like it was hot, but like I was kind of prepared for it. I was miserable, but at the same time, I accepted it and was okay with it because I knew when I knew we were going to Orlando in August that it was going to literally be the most miserable day of the year.
I don't know if it was the most miserable. It was pretty miserable the entire time we were there. For some odd reason, her sister said it was El Nino, but I don't know why. It just wasn't raining in the afternoon like it usually does, which helps with temperatures, even though it makes it kind of worse in the interim right after it. But it does tend to help with temperatures. It didn't rain at all.
Yeah, they're in a heat wave, and they're still in a heat wave, I think.
Yeah, but Epcot was fun. Awesome experience. We got a bunch of videos out of it.
And we also, so this is one reason why you need to go find this video, is because we did 7 drinks around the world to celebrate our 700 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you, each and every single one of you. If I knew your names, I probably would like scroll them and just be like, thank you so much. Yeah. But
YouTube isn't that nice.
We decided to go ballsy with our first drink, and we did Dom Perignon, and like it was good. So if you guys want to see some interesting things, we ate crickets. It was good. But that was also something we'd never done before.
We did a tequila flight in Mexico. We always wanted to do that, but we never got into the restaurant. We did the premium one, not the most expensive, but the second most. And all the tequilas were amazing, by the way.
But like Gary and I, when we lived in Orlando before, we just never had the ability to drink around the world like that.
Well, I mean, we spent $400 that day on drinking.
Yeah,
and very little food. And some food, but mostly drinking.
Very little food. So, being able to have that opportunity was really cool.
It was a good experience, honestly. I wasn't expecting much when we went back there. I didn't really know what to expect. Epcot was nice. Epcot was nice. It was a really fun experience, and it was a nice sort of dipping your toe back in. I will say there's not that many rides in Epcot still, but that's always been their problem.
But we also got to ride 2 new rides this ride too. We strategically chose, if we were going to do one park, I tried to pick a park that had something new for us, and we had already ridden Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad. Yep. And that was really the only new thing other than Tron. Tron just opened, but we all know what a Bear Magic Kingdom is in and of itself. Yeah. And we really wanted to be able to do like some drinking and just kind of relaxing.
Well, I feel like the food and drink selection at Magic Kingdom are not very good. Yeah. And in comparison to Epcot, it's not very good at all.
So we were just kind of looking for just like an easy, like if we wanted to leave half the day, we could still come back. We just wanted something easy. And Epcot's easy. And to be completely honest, it's probably the park that has the most adults in it. Yes. Weirdly enough, you just don't see that many young kids at Epcot because they don't care for the other half of the park. They care for like one side of the park, and that's it. But we got to ride Guardians, and we got to ride Ratatouille, and Ratatouille blew me away.
It was a fun ride.
It was better than what we were expecting, though.
Well, I mean, I thought Ratatouille was going to be a good ride, so I was kind of expecting that to be a decent ride.
But we were worried in comparison to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad, how good would it be?
Because, Mickey and Minnie's does use that where they put you in front of a screen and then things happen, like when you're going down the waterfall, Mickey and Minnie's and stuff. Yeah, I know. But at least in Ratatouille, they have like the big pieces and the set pieces that kind of make it more engaging.
You're still in that big theater room, but the pieces kind of block that.
Yeah.
And make you more thematically in wherever it is that you're at. So,
well, plus the water getting squirted on you, getting under the stove, and it getting hot.
Yeah, those were all really cool pieces.
Really cool pieces. Yeah, I liked the ride. I was nervous because it's in French and part of it's in French, and so you wouldn't understand.
I didn't really understand. It didn't really affect me.
Yeah, it didn't have much. I was wondering what that would do, and like I said, I was wondering what that would do, and it didn't make much of a difference. I liked it.
Yeah, and then so we rode Guardians first. Well, that was the first ride we rode in the park, but because we were staying at Swan Reserve, we came in over by the Great Britain, France entrance, so we had to walk all the way to the other side of the park.
Well, that was funny. We got the whatever it's called, virtual queue thing, and it was like, oh, you won't be seen till like 11:30. And it was like 9 right when the park opened. It's like, oh, your number's up. And we're like, we better go. We're like rushing out of the room, making sure we got everything.
Yeah, so we didn't eat.
Yeah, which is a mistake, by the way.
Yeah, that was our mistake.
You can get motion sickness on it. So definitely have something in your stomach, just not that much.
Yeah. And so we had to walk all the way to the other side of the park. I was able to use my DAS. So it put us in the lightning lane aisle. And that is absolutely devoid of any thematic elements whatsoever until you hit the merge.
Yeah, it's like they're punishing you for going that route.
Which, okay, that's interesting. So there's not really a whole lot to do in that queue. We were just kind of like, the walls are really bare. They're really blank. There's really not a whole lot in the queue. But it did take I think we stood in the line about 40 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was still pretty long. Because of what we talked about in the last podcast with the DAS and stuff, they're putting the paper lanes in the DAS line, and it
clogs the system. It really does. And so, but it was actually exciting. And, every time I ride a new ride, I always get a little nervous. Like, I always have a little, pit in my stomach. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I like to ride. I like to watch ride POVs. Because I know for some people, they're like, well, it ruins the experience. For me, it doesn't ruin it. I know sort of what to expect. And I find that I'm a bit calmer in that sense. When I know nothing, that is when full panic comes out in me. Control freak much. But we got on, and I have to say, the seats for Guardians was very comfortable, honestly. And it was really smooth. I'll give him that. It was another one of those smooth coasters like Slinky Dog. Slinky Dog, you don't feel the rickety changes or anything like that. The downside is you're in a room with screens and you spin and you don't know what to look at, so you can get motion sickness. And you can see the track.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they missed an opportunity with some animatronics in there. I know there were 9 planned for the ride, 8 or 9 planned for the ride, and then of course they axed them because money cost. But I really feel like that would have helped because then you would have known what to focus on. Because there was one scene where the Guardian guy or whatever he is, the Eternal, is getting roped by the Guardians of the Galaxy and getting restrained, and it didn't really make sense because you didn't know what to look at, and then there's a ton of stars, and then the Earth or the moon was beneath us at that point. It was like, what do I look at? Where am I supposed to look? And it makes it even more confusing because you're spinning around. And again, a fun ride. It's definitely an upgraded Space Mountain, or maybe a newer upgrade. I wouldn't call it upgraded, a newer Space Mountain.
Yeah.
But it definitely had some issues.
But it was fun.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
I like it. I would definitely ride it again.
I think I would rather ride that over riding Test Track.
Yeah, but I don't really care for Test Track. I'm going to be 100% honest. I've never been a big fan, especially after I rode Cars in Cars Land and Disneyland, DCA. It was just that's what it should be.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's funny, the picture that we took while we were in line for Ratatouille just popped up, and all I can think about is the little ditty that I started humming before we got on about Return of the Rat.
Return of the Rat.
We were just like, Return of the Rat,
baby.
Return of the Rat. Like in line. And these people are just like looking at us and we're like, what? We're just...
Yeah, that was good. That was a good one. I enjoyed my Frozen too. We'll get to that when we get there too. I did some really good work on that ride. Disney should be hiring me for that.
I mean, I think we had a good time. We tried to have fun with it as much as we could.
Yeah, so we went from Guardians and then we went right to Ratatouille. So we rode the 2 new rides within an hour of getting into Epcot. And we were like, well, we don't really have to ride anything else other than Nacy wanted to ride Soarin'. And I like Frozen, so we were going to ride that too. Other than that, we were done for the day. It was just like, okay, what do we want to drink? What do we want to hang out?
And what's funny, so I got a return time for Frozen because I'm like, well, we're going to make our way through the countries and we'll eventually get there. We really took our time because we started our country drinking journey, I think sometime around noon, 12:30. And it was still 2:30, almost 3 o'clock. And we were still only at the America Pavilion.
Yeah, it was hot for one thing. And I think Guardians really kind of turned our stomachs. Yeah. So the eating was really slow to come. And we wanted to do some food and wine booths. Yeah. So we were kind of like, well, we got to wait till the stomach calms down before we can really get to know
And then
food.
After we hit America, you have Italy and you have Germany, but we had already drank like 6 drinks at that point. So we were ready to like, I was like, well, I don't really want beer because... I mean, I had thought about planning for that beer, but again, I kind of gave up that beer for the mint julep that I came back with, which we'll have to tell you guys. That was actually a funny story. But yeah, and then we just booked it to Norway because I was like, no, we don't need anything here. No, we don't need anything here. You want to just go to Norway? So we skipped over like 3 countries. Yeah. Just so we could get to Frozen and get to the air conditioning.
So in the American pavilions, we had gotten a orange peel cider or something like the orange blossom Pilsner.
Yeah.
We got it from the booth. And I was like,
that was going to be our American drink.
That was going to be our American drink because I liked it in the past. It wasn't as good as it was before, but I did like it in the past, so that's why we went with it. And I went to sit down, and they said, like, oh, let's get some water because we
did. We needed water. Right. And I fully had intended on going to the quick service. This is what I wanted to do. Go to the quick service, get ice water, and fill our jug that we had collected with the ice water. That was my intention. So I walked away, and keep in mind, I haven't seen this side of the American Pavilion in 3 years. And since then, they put in that barbecue place. And so I saw there was like an outside window. I'm like, no shit. That's awesome that now they have like an outside part to this quick service. I was like, maybe the inside is just seating and like you pick up the food here. And as I get closer, I realize there's no water. But what they do have is alcohol. And it is a full bar. And I started reading, like, quickly, glancing through what they had. And I was like, oh, okay, that's okay. That's okay. That's just not. And then I saw Frozen mint julep. And I was like, well, I really like the Disneyland mint julep. And I've never had an alcoholic one. So why not?
Yeah, and then she returns to the table. She was supposed to get water. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, oh.
Yeah. It's alcohol.
I accidentally got in the bar line, and I said, well, I can't just stand here and not order something, sir, so I had to get something.
But it's just funny. It's like, think about that, though. Like what you just said. Well, I was going to get water, but I accidentally ended up in the bar line. And I said, well, can't beat them, join them. And, like, that really sounds like I was already 6 drinks deep in the to be like, well, I kind of fell into it.
And the mint julep was good. Honestly, it was probably one of the more alcoholic drinks we had.
It was the strongest drink we had for sure.
I mean, we had tequila shots.
And I guess the Dom Perignon.
The Dom Perignon didn't seem that strong.
It gave me a little fuzz. It gave me a little fuzzy.
That's good. It was good. I mean, I liked it. Champagne's never really got me drunk, so, or even like fuzzy. So that was
me drunk all the time.
That was a fun experience. And then we finished our day drinking in Mexico.
Yeah, but you got to tell them about what happened on Frozen.
Oh, yeah, Frozen. So we got to Frozen. I love the Frozen ride. I do.
We both do.
I think it's nice and cool. It's always cold. So you get that nice chill when you get into the place. It is one of the rides that they actually try to keep air conditioned, which is really nice. But we got on the ride, and I love the big summer blowout guy. He's my favorite.
Yoo-hoo!
Yoo-hoo! Big summer blowout! And so I just love it. And we were standing where the ride like peaks off for the if you have the dash, you go through the one line, so it's not the standard queue. And right where it comes, it's right after the log cabin. And so I'm just standing there like, woohoo, big summer blowout. And this guy
literally walks out the same second he starts saying it, and we just continued it together.
And he looks over and he's like, okay. And he just like walked past.
But yeah, we literally did it together as this guy is walking out, and we just like dead stared at him like eye to eye. That contact was made, and we were just like committed to it all the way through.
And then we got on the ride, and the ride is the ride. You go up, you see Elsa, then she pushes you back, and you go right around that turn part where the snowmen are, and they're all breathing snow. And then right as we started going downhill, I'm like, woohoo, big summer blowout. And the dude behind us just started laughing so hard. I was like, got him.
We just, like, it's fun to have moments like that and just kind of be silly and goofy. And I feel like lately, don't get me wrong, we still have a lot of fun, and we do, but like to be in that moment, to be silly and goofy, we don't get the opportunity to do that very often.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, Las Vegas is more of adult attractions.
Right.
You don't get much of the like touching back on your kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
So I think that definitely plays into a future segment that we're going to talk about, but it was just really nice to feel like we could be silly and goofy and just be back in our element again. Because, I mean, we don't want to make Disney like our whole identity, because I don't think you should ever have one product or one thing be your identity, especially social media, because if something ever happens to that, then that's it. You're done. Mm-hmm. And I think there's more breadth and depth to people than just one interest that you have. But we both really do love Disney, and we love going to the parks, and we do really like making Disney videos because they're easy, for one, and two, people don't stare at us like we have two heads when we're filming. Like being at the Spirit Halloween store the other day, we were outside the store, nobody around us, doing our intro and our outro, and we get through the intro because it's pretty quick, and you just start to see people, and they're starting to come into the store, and we're like, okay, let's give it a second. Like, let's let these people kind of dissipate. And so we hit record again, and like fucking flies to honey, 5 people, and they're watching us. And I don't know why they're watching us. Are they like thinking we're going to film? Like, I don't know how you think you're going to get in my shot, because I'm against the wall here. Like you're not going to come into frame.
Yeah.
And two, I was just like, it's interesting because when you're outside of the Disney bubble, or even just, I would go as far to say like Anaheim bubble and Orlando bubble, because those are the two main areas where they're at. I think outside of those bubbles, people really look at vloggers really weird in the public. So it was easy to be back at Disney where people aren't like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, the cast members and stuff always wave with you if you have a camera. They're always like, hey! It definitely was interesting, whereas in Vegas, it's just kind of like, you know, it is what it is.
So we appreciate that content. And yes, we're trying to still continue to, like, push ourselves to, like, see other things, too. So, you know, we love it. But,
so after we finished Mexico... Then we headed over to Soarin', rode Soarin'.
We rode Soarin', and that was good.
We went for some Figment merch, but there wasn't anything Figment-wise.
We kept getting called DVC members all day long, too. Like, it was very interesting. I don't know if it was my Tiffany jewelry or his Tommy Bahama.
Yeah, they're like, we know you're a DVC holder, so we're not going to bother you. And I was like, good for you. I'm not going to correct you because I don't want to be bothered.
Part of me thought that was like a sales pitch.
Maybe.
For them to be like, I'm not going to bother you because you're a DVC member. And you're like, but no, I'm not. Oh, you're not? You should be.
It could be. I was just like, I ain't going to correct you. I ain't done that dumb. And then we went to the Figment thing, and there's a DVC lounge holder thing on top of it. And they were like, you going up to the lounge? And I was like, I should just said yes to see if they'd let me up. Be like, yeah, sure. But I'm like, no. I just pretend not to hear them. Nacy, of course, responded with, no, we're just looking for Figment merch.
I'm like, I'm just looking for Figment shit. He's like, oh, well, then you're in the perfect place. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock.
No, we weren't because there was more Figment in other stores that we went to.
But that's the going thought, is that you're going to find Figment merch at Figment's Ride.
That means you're a pretty shitty person because you haven't looked at any of the other stores. You work there. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
They are stuck in their bubble. As a cast member, you don't typically venture outside where you work. But anywho, so that kind of rounded out our day.
Yeah.
And we chose not to make a Disney reservation that night because we thought, oh, we're going to eat all around the world and we're going to be full.
Well, first we had California Grill. That was our first reservation.
Yeah, we did.
That day, yes.
And then we talked about it and I was like, we're probably going to be full. So we canceled it. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
So we just got room service that night. But this trip, we actually got to hit almost all of our tops.
Well, I was going to say, so we had Shula the first night. Awesome.
Delicious.
I definitely recommend it. And again, all these videos are on our YouTube channel, Lost Girl in Tomorrowland. Shula's amazing. Then we had the Polly.
Yep.
And honestly, it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Ohana the Polly. So it was better than I thought it was going to be. I really didn't think it was going to be good, y'all. I really didn't. And it turned out to be really.
It was a good,
tasty.
It was different. It was definitely a different experience.
Not as good as it used to be because that chicken that they used to have, I literally would kill people for. I would kill
Thankfully,
people.
we know how to make it.
That and Long John Silver's chicken. I'm coming to get you.
It's true, y'all. He takes his chicken seriously, even more so than I do, and I mostly eat chicken. But it was a different experience. It was a different, but we also got swifty. We had 2 drinks at the bar before dinner, and those were probably the best. They were the best drinks we had the entire trip. I would say my 2 drinks at the bar right outside Ohana were probably my 2 favorite drinks the entire trip. Don't get me wrong, we still had some good drinks, but those 2 were probably my favorite.
Yeah, I can see that. The only thing I would put up there was the tequila shots and the Dom Perignon were really good too.
Okay.
But overall, I think that Poly Bar was amazing. Plus, you can get like wings and stuff there, which their wings are super tasty. We didn't, but
because we were like, we're gonna eat over there, and then she's like, ha ha ha, you're gonna eat a lot of food. No.
And the lie detector test determined that was a lie.
Don't get me wrong, I left full, but in comparison to how the food used to come out, it was very much it's not Fort Wilderness or not.
It's Wilderness Lodge.
Yeah, it's that restaurant where they gave us the skillets with the food in it.
They still do it, yeah.
And you had to keep asking for more.
Well, it was even worse than that in my opinion because the chicken and the steak, he literally brought out 3 pieces of each. And there were 3 people at the table because we were with her sister. And Lily was sleeping, so it was her sister and her niece, but the niece was sleeping, so she didn't eat anything. He would bring out 3 pieces of chicken. So that means we each got 1, and it's like, okay, more.
The shrimp, though, were not seasoned. Like
they're so
it's
bland. Yes, they were cocktail
If I
shrimp.
had cocktail sauce, maybe I would feel differently.
Agreed.
But the peel and eat shrimp that I was used to at that place was so deliciously seasoned before. This is the before for.
The garlic and butter on them.
And now it's just this bland peel and eat shrimp that doesn't you don't even have lemon.
Yep. And like you talked about, the chicken is more like a Caribbean chicken now.
Yeah.
It used to be more of like a Polynesian, sort of like a Hawaiian.
More
sweet.
Asian inspired versus Hispanic inspired.
The steak was better though.
Yeah, I will give them that. The steak was better. The steak sauce was better. The pot stickers were the same and they're good. The noodles were the same and they're good. And the wings were slightly different.
Yeah.
Slightly different sauce. It wasn't a bad sauce, but it's not
as good.
Not the other sauce. Yeah. Now, I did find a recipe that was supposed to be for like Big Hero 6. It was like a Disney recipe for
which we have on
sticky
our YouTube
wings.
channel. Lost Girl in Tomorrowland.
Those actually taste almost identical to the wings from the Poly or what they used to be. So, we can definitely put it in the show notes where you can find that video.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wing sauce was different. The service was hit or
bad.
miss.
It was bad until the end. She gives it credit because at the end they did the right thing, and that's cool because they didn't charge us for Lily. And then Lily woke up at the last minute right before we left and was super hungry. And he's like, "Oh, I think they have stuff." And he basically went in the back, got mac and cheese
and chicken tenders and fries.
Some ketchup.
Yeah.
And he brought it back, and that was awesome. But at the same time, they were just going to throw it away anyways. So, because it was literally closing when we left. So, is it really costing them nothing? No, it doesn't cost them anything.
But it was very nice that he did that. But I will say prior to that, and I agree with Gary, the service was very slow. Like, we didn't get acknowledged till after we had sat for a good 20 minutes. And unlike previous Polynesian experiences, they don't give you bread to start off with, whereas it used to have bread. And now there's no more bread until they greet you, the servers.
Yeah, and it's a different bread too. They used to pick up the warm bread. You could see them making the bread. They literally would go from making it to put it on the table, and they bring it to your table. Now it's this pre-made loaf. Yeah, that's like probably frozen and then thawed and cooked. It reminds me of like the yeast rolls. They're not as good, by the way. It reminds me of the yeast rolls.
It's not the same. It was still decent bread, but it wasn't. Yeah. It's not the same.
The banana pudding, or the banana pudding. It's not banana pudding. It's the banana.
It's the bread pudding.
Yeah, but it has banana and pineapple in it.
Does it have banana? I thought it was just pineapple and then rum.
Yeah, maybe it's just the pineapple. Anyways,
but it's good. The bread pudding's still good.
It's about the same. Yeah.
So there's some things that have changed and things that have stayed the same, and I would just say that it's an okay restaurant. Yep. Overall, it's okay. It's not, I wouldn't put it at the bottom of your list, but they can accommodate large groups in there. You can see the fireworks in there. I cannot guarantee if they will pipe the music because they didn't pipe it to the lobby when we were there. So I don't really know if the situation is still the same inside. It used to be that they did, but I think that's changed. So if you want to see fireworks from your table, as long as you get a good view, you can see the fireworks, but that not every seat in there is a guaranteed fireworks view. So keep that in mind too. Yep. But I think it's an okay restaurant for families, especially if you're in the Magic Kingdom area and you want a good restaurant to kind of sit at. I would say that one's up there.
Then we went to Chewy's.
Chewy's made us sick.
Yeah, it was disgusting. We used to eat at the one that was closer to property.
Yeah.
And this one was on the
iDrive,
and it just was bad. There was a moisture in it because there's clearly some leaking water.
Oh, God, yeah. It smelled so bad right when you first walked in, and that shop should have just been like, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else.
And then we sat down, and it didn't get any better. I still like the jalapeno
dip. The dip was good.
And the cheese dip was good, too. It's just what we got fajitas, and they were not tasty.
Yeah.
So then we went to, on property, I'm guessing the next night was probably California Grill?
No, Sanaa.
Oh, Sanaa was first. Okay.
So we're going to talk about Sanaa.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back to talk about Sanaa. So Sanaa was an experience. Now, first, if you don't know, it's at Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's at the, which house is it?
Kidani
It's at the Kidani Village. So it's the DVC area, so it's a little quieter. Smaller one. But you do still get to see the animals and stuff, so no losses there. It's just quieter and smaller.
And it's still nice. I have to say, if I had to really choose between Jumbo and Kidani, I would probably choose Kidani just for it to be a little bit quieter of an experience. Yeah. Because I think we genuinely like a quieter resort. So, yeah.
I would say the only reason I wouldn't pick Kidani, I'd pick Jumbo is because you can do the concierge level in Jumbo. You cannot do that in Kidani.
True. So okay, that's a good point. You would have to walk to utilize that concierge level. So anyways, but back to our Sanaa experience.
So we got there. Everything's cool. We went out, saw the animals, hung out a little bit because we were a little bit early for our reservation. Then we went downstairs to check in. same look as it always has been. Same little covey area. It kind of looks like a cave where where you have to wait.
Similar elements to their menu that's posted outside, but there's definitely some changes that we noticed right off the bat. But we're like, it's fine. We're just gonna keep going and give it our best, and we'll just go with the flow.
Yeah, I think too. It was about too, like, you want to give it a try. I mean, it is one of the more adventurous restaurants on Disney property. I would say it probably is the most adventurous one on Disney property.
Yeah.
Anything at Animal Lodge really would fit under that category. But it was always good, and it was something different. We always went out of our comfort zone. We tried something different. Like, I tried the lamb chops there. Really loved them. So it was a good experience.
Yeah. So we came into it with good prior experiences.
And hoping that it was still good, yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of thought, coming back to Disney restaurants, that they were going to be not that good.
And we were kind of correct.
For two different reasons. One, change of menu, change of chef, that kind of thing. But two, we've also had other dining experiences that have kind of set the bar higher.
True.
And we weren't sure that Disney was going to rise to the occasion.
In part 3, we've heard about all the cost-cutting measures in Disney. So we got there. We get sat on a table. They sit us at a two-top, y'all.
Yeah.
And that was the smallest two-top we had. We had another two-top.
California Grill.
At California Grill, and that was okay. And then we also had a two-top at the Margaritaville or whatever it is that we had in the airport. And it was bigger than the table that we got at Sanaa. It was crazy small.
It was so tiny. And it was tucked in this back corner with no view. It was the back corner
against a wall. We were nowhere near any windows whatsoever. We had made a reservation, y'all. I mean, how do you make a reservation and not at least get sat by the window when people would just show up and put their name in and get better seats?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is not okay, because we're going to order a bunch of stuff, and the bread service is huge, and it still was huge. It took up the whole table. And we were going to get the bread service. We were going to get food, which piggybacks onto our waiter was trying to force us to order quicker. And that would have been a huge mistake if we had let him do that to us.
Yeah, because one, rushing us, not cool. But two, where would we put it?
Yeah.
Where are we going to put it? But yeah, the bread service was still good. Bread service was still amazing.
Those 3 pieces of bread, the first 3 pieces, heaven, absolute heaven. I love them. They are so like doughy and airy and perfectly cooked. And then you add any of the sauces on them. Honestly, any of them are good. But there are some that are stellar, like the green sauce is stellar. The yogurt one is stellar. I mean, man.
Yeah, the bread service was absolutely delicious. The lamb kafta was okay. It wasn't bad.
We got 2 apps. The lamb kafta was the second one.
So those actually were probably the 2 best things we had the entire night.
Well, the funny thing about the lamb kafta is it could have just been hamburger. No one would know.
This is true. But we're going to pretend like that's not the case.
I don't know. Disney's cheap. That's all I'm saying. But we liked it. It was good. I'm not hating on the gravy that was on it. Was super tasty. And then we got to our main courses.
And so I did the one that you pick a meat and a vegetable, and it comes with rice. So I did the braised beef, and basically they're red kidney beans with like a I don't know the name of the sauce, but there's like a little with a sauce, and then it came with the jasmine rice, and it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Honestly,
it wasn't great.
Was right. Yeah, it wasn't great, but hers was better than mine was. I got the pork shank, which is just a meal, and then it comes with like black-eyed peas, leeks, and some other stuff.
A lot of veggies.
A lot of veggies. The pork shank was okay. It was kind of really dry. I wasn't really expecting it to be as dry as it was. The black-eyed peas and stuff were okay. I mean, I'm not a big fan of them, so it wouldn't have done much for me. But, you know, if you did, you might have liked it. We did order 2 drinks that were alcoholic.
And they were kind of meh.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even drink mine.
Yeah. Well, he asked if we wanted dessert, and we were like, nah, we're good. Yeah. This is not, no.
We left, I'm not going to lie, I think I left Hungry.
Oh, I left hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we really got anything the rest of that night.
Well, we were going to go to Jumbo and get some of those zebra poop or whatever they're called.
Oh, yeah.
The dessert, and then we didn't ever make it that far.
Walk that far. Probably my own fault because I wasn't thinking, but...
but we did go over to Jumbo House and look at the merchant stuff.
Yeah, we did. We did do that. So it was... And we also... had reservations to Better Than Sex that night.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up canceling them after that experience because I was like, do we want to be double disappointed tonight? And I don't think Better Than Sex would have been a disappointment, but at the same time, I think we were just bummed because that was like our favorite place to just kind of feel like we were having a nice night, but not too expensive because it never really was that expensive. Mm-hmm. For Disney signature dining the category that it falls under, and to just not rise to the occasion was just such a bummer.
Yeah, and the service didn't help either. I mean, he was not very nice, not very knowledgeable, constantly trying to push us.
The table behind me dropped a glass that almost hit my leg. That was fun, and then the table next to you got sat and he kind of got stuck to the point
I couldn't even get out of the table. Yeah, I couldn't even get out of the table. I mean,
there was so many layers of just meh.
And then we couldn't see the animals. The entire point of eating there is to see the animals while you eat. Because hopefully you're not eating giraffe while you're watching a giraffe, but nonetheless, so you can see the animals.
There's no lambs there.
So you can see the animals. But you couldn't. We couldn't see anything. We literally were looking at walls, and it was like, this stinks.
Yeah. So it was a bum. It was a bum. It was probably the worst meal, I think. No, take that. It wasn't the worst. It was.
Yeah, we didn't get sick.
It was definitely one of the most disappointing Disney stops we made.
Agreed.
Yeah, we'll say it was the most disappointing. But yeah, so that was our trip
to
Sanaa. And then the next place we went to was...
so that concludes our YouTube preview of the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say the next one that we went to is the California Grill. But this part is going to conclude, so if you want to see
she was. Yeah, I'm sure she was.
That's where I was going.
Okay, sorry, my fault.
Okay, you want me to start it over? You going to splice this?
No, I'm not going to splice it, but you can start over.
It's going to sound real stupid. All right. Well, anyways, what I was going to say is after Sanaa, the next dining out that we had was California Grill. So if you guys want to hear that story, you're going to have to either... hop on over to where podcasts are found so you can hear the rest of this podcast. And if you want to see the rest of this video,
head over to Patreon.
Yeah, where we're going to have the video. So that's going to conclude our YouTube preview.
Yeah, so if you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And ring that notification bell so you get notified when we do at least 3 videos a week.
And we will come and get y'all for the next one.
And for those on the podcast, we'll be back in just one moment. Ain't that the truth, Baby Ruth? Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yeah, so we, the last restaurant we went to was California Grill. So that was our last night there. That was our last hoorah. Oh, the one place we didn't talk about was the bar at Disney Springs. Jack Lindsay's.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
And that place was okay. We got tapas and drinks.
Yeah.
But anyways, so California Grill rounded out our dining, and I would say it started off mixed because our reservation wasn't until almost 10 p.m., which is a late reservation. Sometimes that's all you can get. So, good if you're leaving the park and you want to go have a sit down, I guess, all nasty and sweaty and such. But nonetheless, though, we got to the property, I think sometime around 5:30, 6 o'clock with the intention of getting some drinks and maybe monorail crawling.
Yeah, the idea was Nacy's in a conference, so we wanted to get out as soon as possible because then the influx of people leaving. So we got out, we headed to the resort. It was 5, like Nacy said. And we thought about going to the Poly and stuff or even the Grand Floridian because we didn't go there this trip. But it's just dealing with the monorails and getting past security is just a pain. And so we eventually decided not to do
Yeah,
that.
if it's only going to be for like a quick jump over, it just...
And the lines at the Contemporary were ridiculously long, too.
Yeah, that
on a whole
too.
other side note, which we didn't really take into account, but it was true when we were there. They were super long.
So we just went down to the bar and ordered some drinks. It was really hot.
Chef's Mickey's.
It was really hot, too.
Yes.
Like
they didn't turn the air on.
So while we were sitting there, we kept trying to see if we can get a sooner reservation. Can we get a sooner reservation? And then it popped up on the app. Do you want to be added to
the wait list?
To the wait list? And I was like, huh? So we went back downstairs, went to the thing. The guy couldn't help me. And he was like, well, if you can do it in the app, just do it in the app. And I was like, all right, that's what I'm going to do. And I kept my original reservation until we actually got upstairs. But
Right.
so we added ourselves to the wait list, which you could only do in the Disney Experience app.
Yeah.
You can't just walk up. Apparently, they can't add people to wait. Whatever. It was a weird situation.
Yeah, and on top of that, Disney, you're destroying yourself. This is not a good decision. You can't act like people are supposed to plan out their days and someone can just go on the wait list and get seated before me.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
And maybe get a better table than me, too.
Yeah, true.
So they called us within about 10 minutes of me putting ourselves on the wait list. Now, that was the call to go to the elevator.
Yeah.
So we went to the elevator. We got up to the 30th floor or something like that.
Is it 30th? I thought it was like the 15th.
Maybe it's the 15th floor. I don't know. It's tall.
Whatever. It's the top floor. Whatever.
So we get up there, and so because we, quote unquote, were on the wait list, they had us stand to the side.
Yes.
Well, they sat reservation after
peons.
reservation after reservation after reservation. Here's the thing. You knew I was a party of two.
Yes.
You called me to the elevator.
Yep.
Why am I standing in this corner?
I'm with you. I don't
At
understand.
this point, I should be no different than anybody who has a reservation.
Well, you don't know you don't know if they were on the wait list. You really don't know.
This is true. Yeah. I'm just assuming.
You just know she sat parties in front of us. That's all.
Yeah,
you know.
at least 7 parties. And then I think at one point the general manager had come out and then he was talking to Gary about the Bucks.
Yeah.
And
then we finally got seated after we talked to the guy about the Bucks.
Yeah. I don't know what was up with that. I don't know if they were testing something, because that was the first I had heard about a wait list. I've not heard about any Disney restaurants having a wait list.
And so the wait list has to be done in the app, like Nacy said, but you also have to be geographically close to the restaurant too. You can't just do it from your house.
Yeah.
You have to be like in the lobby right next to the restaurants, geo-fenced as well.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if this is something that they were testing.
Bad idea, Disney.
Because it seemed kind of weird if the people that were sat in front of us were reservations and we were a wait list. Like, they kind of seemed a little unprepared for a wait list person. So I think it definitely is new recently because, again, they didn't really know what to do with us. But to be fair, I don't think there's necessarily a bad seat in California Grill. It's just they're all going to give you a different kind of view.
I don't know. I thought that about Sanaa too, and we found out that was not the case. So there might be a bad seat. I don't know. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like it. I'll agree with you, but I'm hesitant to say that just because of our Sanaa experience.
So they sat us kind of in the back, though. The previous time we ate at California Grill, and we only have eaten here once before, and that was when we first moved to Orlando. That visit, they did sit us kind of in front of the glass, and it was a very good, intimate experience. Like, it was nice. It was like that was probably my first big Disney spend.
Yeah, it
was that restaurant.
Signature dining for sure at Disney. We were sat on the side of Epcot this time, so we were more towards the Epcot fireworks and stuff.
And so by adding ourselves to the wait list, we got sat around 7:30. And California Grill is a Prix Fix menu now, so you get to kind of choose different elements, but you basically choose an appetizer, your main course, and your dessert.
And I thought it was funny too with the registering thing too, how it's just kind of crazy that we couldn't get an open seat before 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock.
But we could go to the wait list.
We could just go to the wait list and get in.
Yeah, that was definitely a big takeaway too. I'm like, what is this? Like, then you should just take my reservation early.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't be like, I'm here. Can you just take me early?
Yeah, because I can't imagine the people that don't show, because it does happen.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a really great server. He was very, very nice, very knowledgeable, kept Gary's drinks coming. I just got iced tea because I think I was already starting to not feel great.
Yeah.
Because my trip home was just a bit of a disaster. And so I just drank tea that night. And he was great. He kept drinks coming. He kept the bread coming.
Well, I thought it was cool, too, the people who actually went outside to see the fireworks. He put, like, bowls and stuff over their plates so they would keep them warm and keep the bugs off. Super awesome. Like, that's awesome. We didn't actually go out and see. Yeah. We just sat at the table and watched.
And to be fair, we had a great view because everybody went outside. So the restaurant was pretty much to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was maybe like 10 people in there.
And we got to see both the Epcot and the Disney World fireworks.
And I got a little teary.
Yeah, she did.
Only because I think it was just interesting coming back and sitting there, hearing the music on property, which is the experience I wanted at the Poly, but I didn't get because I couldn't hear the music. So to me, it was just kind of like, okay, they're fireworks.
Yeah,
agreed. If I don't hear the music, at the very least, then it's just fireworks to me.
Makes sense.
So, sitting there, hearing the music, and the music wasn't even quiet. It was at a very loud decibel. And just kind of, again, having a moment with Gary where we were like, we were here, we were on property again. Granted, we were getting ready to go home, but it was just kind of the best culmination to the week that I could think of because the food was good the food was good. My app was good. My main course was enough for me. There wasn't a whole lot of food there, but it was enough for me. And then my dessert was absolutely amazing. So it was just a really good end of Disney experience.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that was our final experience with Disney for sure. Because again, if it was the Poly, it wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Or Sanaa, that was not good at all.
But it just really made me think of how much I could possibly want to be there.
Yeah. Well, and the food too. I wanted to mention the food. So the appetizer was really good. I got the sushi, super tasty. The main course, the portions are just too small. I know it was flavorful. It was good. I'm not like the carrots were good. The steak was good, but it was just there needed to be more of all of that. And then the dessert was okay. It was kind of weird. It was a creme brulee, but like out of the case. So, and it was a little more like jello-y than I would have liked it to be. It wasn't as custardy, I think, as I'd like, but it wasn't bad. And so overall, it was probably one of the better Disney restaurants we had. Would I go back there for the price? Yeah, if someone wanted to, but I wouldn't. That wouldn't be my first choice, I think.
I think I'd have to go eat at Narcoossee's again before I have this conversation, because I would say if I wanted to have a nice dinner and have a fireworks view, it's going to be between California Grill and Narcoossee's for me. Yeah. So, and we haven't had Narcoossee's. It did pop up for us, but we had plans on the night that it came up, so we didn't end up going. Yeah.
Which that's probably the only restaurant that we wanted to go to. We didn't make it to. Yeah. And we tried that night when we were at California Grill to switch to Narcoossee's, and nothing would come open.
Please. But if for those who don't know,
they had a wait list. Now I'm just sitting here. I'm just literally.
I looked at it to see if Narcoossee's was on there, and it wasn't. And there were several restaurants that said the wait list is too busy. Like the Steakhouse 71, it said that the current flow, like the current traffic flow, isn't allowing for wait lists at this time. So it's like based on their occupancy.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So more people go to the Steakhouse 71 than they go to California Grill.
Either that or they're still testing, and like maybe that's testing and that's the message.
True, yeah.
Or maybe there really wasn't that many people at...
I mean, I'll be honest. California Grill is always super noisy, so it's hard to judge how many people are in there just because of how it's created.
The acoustics suck there.
Oh, yeah. The acoustics are horrible. It should not be a signature restaurant with that acoustics. But we
did get to see a reception with Minnie Mouse.
We did get to see a wedding reception with Minnie Mouse. It didn't seem that busy, is what I was going to end with. Yeah. It really did. Because there were open tables when we left. There were open tables when we got there.
But it was a great experience. It was honestly again, some of the best food I had on Disney property.
If we hadn't had Shula's, that would be the best. Shula's was, the waiter was not the greatest. He was okay. But Shula's was fantastic. Everything from the steak to the apps were good. The salad and stuff that you
So we ended on a really good note, and we finished on a really good note.
We started.
And the middle was just kind of the meh, floppy middles, but we got to go back to some old favorites and really
we had tacos magui too.
Oh yeah, we did. That was what we did that one night. We ordered tacos magui.
Oh my gosh, the night we went to Icon Park is when we had it. I think. Yeah, it was so good. Tacos magui. If you're in Orlando, tacos magui are the best tacos we have had.
Yeah, street tacos. It's more like the carne asada, like street tacos.
Get a
and
quesadilla.
Their quesadilla.
Quesadilla.
And we found them back when they were in a food truck in the back of the Hispanic flea market.
The first time we went to Disney, or it was the second time I think we went to Disney. They were on Uber Eats or something, and we ordered them, and they were just chef's kiss. We were like, this is awesome.
If I could say what it feels like when you partake edibles and you get the munchies and you get to scratch that itch with the munchie. The very first time we had tacos magui, there were no chemicals involved in that. And we were just like, oh my God, this is nirvana for food. The flavor was like out of this world. And we were like, where the hell did this come from? And we didn't really know that it was coming from a food truck the first time we ordered. The second time we were like, well, let's look them up and we'll go get them. And then we found out they were at a food truck. And we were like, well, do we want to go and ruin the experience? So we ordered a second time Uber Eats. We didn't actually physically go there. The third time, we went looking for them. We were on a mission. And I think it was after we moved there.
Yep.
Yeah, it was after we moved to Orlando. And we're like, okay, we're going to go find this. We know it's at the flea market. We've been to the flea market. I didn't know they had food trucks. They had food trucks in the front, but we didn't know there was like a whole food park in the back. And so it's all Spanish food. And majority of the people back there don't speak English.
Yeah.
Some do.
Yes. Majority do not, yes.
And so we find the tacos magui truck and we go to order. And he refuses to talk to Gary because I looked Hispanic. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am Hispanic, but I don't really speak Spanish. So, so he started talking to me and I'm like, español un poquito. Let me just tell you what I fucking want. And so anyway, so we got it to go. It was delicious. It was fantastic. And then shortly after that, we found out that they opened a brick and mortar on the other side of Orlando.
Yeah, because we returned to the food truck place and they weren't there.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay. And then we looked and they had actually gotten a storefront.
Which is awesome. It's still there.
Yeah.
So it's about 15 to 20 minutes from Disney property. But you can get it delivered to that area, or at least you could. While we were there. So if you want to Uber Eats it, tacos magui.
So that was a good eating experience. So we had some good ones. We had
some not so good ones.
But only one of them we got sick from. So that's a plus.
Yeah, right? I mean, because we eat out a lot.
We do. And we take a lot of chances for the channel. Lost Girl into Tomorrowland at YouTube. So...
Yeah, so...
We take a lot of chances that you probably wouldn't take if you were not doing a YouTube channel.
But yeah, so we have to take all this into account. This trip was a trip for us to decide if we're going to move back to Orlando.
Yeah, which we'll be talking about in a minute. But first, we want to talk about Marriott versus Hilton.
Oh, I just figured we could end with Marriott versus Hilton.
No. So you had your first platinum experience at this Marriott.
Yeah, so after we stayed at the Marriott in Phoenix, it was enough to bump me to platinum with Marriott, which still isn't the highest tier. There's still like 2 more tiers to go.
Yep.
And so with that added benefit, I got like a guaranteed upgrade, which was I was just going to ask if I could get upgrade. And they were like, oh, no, we already upgraded you. And they definitely came through with that upgrade.
Which is the first time we've ever gotten a real upgrade. I mean, they've said we've been upgraded before, but mostly it's from like supposedly not good view to a better view, but it's the same room. That's the upgrade that Hilton always gives us, but this was a genuine upgrade, y'all.
So they upgraded us, and then also because I'm in this upper tier for Marriott, they have an amenities package that you get at certain hotels. Now, it's not at every single hotel, but it's at most of their higher end mid-tier hotels. And basically at the Swan Reserve, I got to pick between 4 different ones. One had like sodas and candies and snacks. And then the one we got had beer and snacks.
And then there was a wine and cheese one. And then I'm not sure what the 4th one was.
There was a breakfast one that came with like breakfast and milk and juice. So, which compared to what Hilton gives you, and I am top with Hilton, beyond.
Hilton's an absolute joke. We've went into, I think, just about every one since you've been platinum, and you've been platinum for like 2 years now.
And they never give me anything.
Right. They're always like, oh, our snacks are out.
Or if they do have a snack, it's the tiniest bag of Cheez-Its I've ever seen.
Or like we'll get the Biscoff cookies that you get on Delta, and it's like, wow, you spent a lot on that. Mm-hmm. So at Hilton, you're supposed to get the free upgrades too, but you also get like 2 snacks at most of the places. Now, that's open to interpretation, obviously, what snacks are.
Yeah, so since they never really give the snacks and they don't usually have them, I've now changed my preference for Hilton so that I get points instead of the snacks, because at least that is somewhat tangible.
Yeah.
And the snacks could just go into oblivion.
So we ended up picking the beer snacks at the Marriott, which is so awesome, by the way, that the Swan and Dolphin is a Marriott hotel.
Yeah.
And you can use your points there. So that's definitely a legit tip.
Use your points, earn points.
It's the closest pointable.
Have a status as you go to
hotel.
Disney.
Yeah.
Like if you stay at a Disney resort, you're never going to have status.
Yep.
Whereas if you stay at a Marriott, you can at least have status and utilize that for your room upgrades and to kind of make your dollar go further, so to speak, at least in my opinion. And you still get access to the same Disney amenities. Disney actually considers Swan and Dolphin a top tier resort up there with what they equate Contemporary, Grand Floridian, and all of those hotels. So they compete, and I would go as far to say Swan and Dolphin, even if you take out the Reserve where we were staying, they have at least 7 restaurants. They have quick service, they have sit downs, they have a pool on both property that you can just walk across to. They have in the Dolphin side is where you're going to find the bar, which is a huge bar. They have a huge sundry store where you can, buy snacks and drinks for your room. So again, if you had stayed at that property, you probably would have chose from that place, like your snacks and stuff. Yeah. And then they had a Disney store on property. And again, you can take Disney transportation to the parks. The boats, the same boats that pick up the boardwalk guests and the beach club guests, pick up the Swan and Dolphin guests. Yeah. So it's Disney transportation, and you can take the boat to Epcot, you can take the boat to Studios, or you can take the boat down to Epcot and then take the Skyliner if you are feeling like you want to go on an adventure, which we did one of the days. Yeah. So it's a legit resort.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought that it was probably one of the better ones we've stayed at.
Now, I can say it's been several years since I've stayed there, but I have stayed at some of the Hiltons that border Disney Springs, and they're considered a Disney Good Neighbor hotel. Because I don't think there's a Disney hotel that Disney considers its property. I think it's just the Marriott. And the buses you take aren't Disney buses. Yes, you get some benefits like you're staying on property because it's a Good Neighbor hotel, but you're not taking Disney buses. And those hotels have to walk even further than the shit Disney hotel guests.
Right, exactly.
So...
Yeah. If you didn't know, if you stay at like Pop Century, your bus stop is always the last bus stop.
And then you got to walk a mile to your room from the bus stop. I mean, so in terms of Disney properties, I don't think that there's a Hilton that Disney considers like it does the Swan and Dolphin. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then outside of just that Orlando bubble and the places we've been, the Marriott beds, when we went to New York, we stayed in a Marriott and we stayed in a Hilton. And we stayed at Marriott's most of the time until we got to New York City because I wanted to use our Hilton points. And our Hilton points got us like the shittiest room ever. It looked like everybody else's.
Yeah. In its defense, it was New York City, but you're right. It looked like everybody else's room. Yeah. It was a view thing. That's one of the problems I find with the Hiltons is most of their quote unquote upgrades are just views. Yeah. And it's like, why didn't I already have that?
So, and in general, I think I find Marriott's to be slightly more luxurious. Like if I think about the JW Marriott, and I'm trying to think of a really nice Hilton. We stayed at the Embassy. When we stayed at the Embassy Suites in Anaheim, that's a Hilton.
Yeah. So my thing is with the Hiltons, we've had it for 2 years now. We've had Platinum, which is, again, as Nancy said, the highest tier. We've been upgraded, really upgraded. Never.
Yeah.
So, like, to have a real upgrade, we always get a view upgrade or something, but that's the most they'll do. Mm-hmm. They'll never upgrade us to a suite because we're always in the king right below the suites if we're not already in a suite.
Yeah.
That's typically what we'll take. So they don't even upgrade us. Like, they won't put us on concierge level. Hell, one time, that was a Hilton. Or was
that was a Marriott.
That was the Marriott.
Yeah.
We paid to be on the concierge level. They didn't have one, so they gave us a lower room and just gave us access to concierge. Mm-hmm. But, like, they won't even give us access to the concierge at Hilton. It's so lame. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, okay. And like even the extended stays, we should be getting an upgrade. Mm-hmm. And we've been to them where they have nicer kitchens and stuff. We never get the upgrade though.
Yep.
Never. Whereas we've Marriott for literally a day and they already upgraded us in a significant upgrade. I mean, we got to stay in a suite. And it was a super nice suite.
Yeah,
with like
it was a corner suite.
Audio visual equipment in there. If you want to have a meeting, you could have had that. A huge table to work on. The air conditioners worked.
And they didn't cut off.
I mean, it was so nice.
And the bed was a little bit firmer, but it was still comfy. The bed was still really comfy. It had a pull-out couch in the living room that my sister and my niece stayed out on. Yep. And then the bathroom you were able to kind of share with the main space, but still keep it blocked off.
Yeah, the bathroom could definitely have some different doors on it, but it was okay. But the suite was amazing. And to upgrade us, and then the package that we got it came with like a 6 beers.
Size, 6 whole beers.
A full-size thing of like the pretzel chips that Nancy likes. And then some beef jerky. A
full-size thing of beef jerky.
The beef jerky wasn't the greatest tasting, but that's really not their fault. But still a full size of everything. It wasn't like snacks. It wasn't tiny.
It was probably worth decent. Like $30 retail. I'm sure they probably would have sold it for about $100 there. Right. But, so that was really nice. And just the amenities and alone in like the Marriott's and the... I wouldn't even say that that's their Marriott's top tier. I wouldn't even go as far as saying that because I'm pretty sure the Ritz-Carlton is probably like, woohoo, like way up there.
Yeah.
But the amenities are nice there. At both that one and thinking about the JW that we stayed at in Anaheim, both of those were really good experiences. The rooms were always nice. They always smelled good.
Yeah.
And then I try to think about some of the Hilton experiences that I've tried to curate for us, and usually it's like, meh. We always walk away with a, eh.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, really, was the one that we stayed in New Orleans a Hilton or a Marriott? I think it was a Hilton.
Marriott.
Oh, it was a Marriott, too. Okay.
Yeah.
I got nothing Hilton.
Because it was one of their curated ones.
Smaller hotels. Yeah, so I'm Marriott. I mean, just right now, maybe Hilton can always come back, but I'm definitely.
And then Marriott. Thinking about like, we stayed at the Hojo.
Yep.
Over at Anaheim, and that wasn't a bad stay either. We had a bit of a walk, but our room was definitely, the bed was comfortable. It's a dated resort, but like,
yeah,
that room was more comfortable. And then we stayed at the Holiday Inn over in Anaheim, and that room was comfy too, and we got free breakfast.
Can't beat free breakfast.
What?
Can't beat free breakfast.
Yeah, yeah. And I get free breakfast a lot of times at those extended stays, and they're like, poo-poo.
Yeah, but we've been to plenty of Marriotts that didn't have good breakfast too. So
True.
The Hyatt that we stayed in. Now we don't stay in Hyatts very often, and it was horrible. It was a huge resort, and it was just not good.
I don't know why anybody was there.
So to be fair, I don't really want to judge Hyatt just solely on that though, because it's only one hotel, but just not a good experience.
We probably should stay at a different one. But for the conference that I went to, I'm just like, the Gaylord would have been better.
Hell, the Swan and Dolphin
would have been better. Because too, like, those places have stuff for families to do.
Right.
Too. I mean, I love the Gaylord, and I have not done an official review on the channel yet of the Gaylord in Orlando. But if we get a chance to do it in the future, I'll definitely take you guys with me, because I do think the Gaylord, at least the one in Orlando, does come up on Marriott's site, so I can get Marriott points for staying there. Yeah. So,
it's a super nice hotel. So,
yeah, I love that place, and it's so themed. Like, it's very well themed.
Yeah, it's like its own little city.
Mm-hmm. When I think of a resort, I think of that place, because they have a water park and they got restaurants, and it doesn't feel so busy that you're ready to rip your hair out, which is what I felt like at the Hyatt, because there was only one set of elevators, whereas, like, I'm using the Gaylord as a comparison, but they have elevators every so many feet.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use just one central elevator for that entire section. And you can reach the other sections from the other elevators. You just might have to walk a little more.
Right. Yeah, instead of having lines of people waiting 15 to 30 minutes.
Gary, we ordered food. I went out to get it. Now, granted, the Uber driver got lost, and I had to have the bellhops help me, and then kind of had to deal with another situation. But getting back in line, I had to get in line to get back up the elevator, and the line was at least 50, 60 people deep.
Yeah, it took an hour for her to get the food, to go downstairs to get the food and come back. At one point, I was like, I'll go out and help her, but I didn't want to go all the way down the elevator because I knew that was a problem. So I sat outside the elevator, and these people waited there. I clocked them for almost 30 minutes waiting for the elevator to come and pick them up.
It was busy, and then that's it. That's the only elevator there is this one elevator, and maybe that worked in the 90s, but it doesn't work now.
Yeah.
And half of them didn't work half the time. It just, the only thing I liked about the Hyatt was there was a ceiling fan in the room.
Yeah, that was nice.
I'll give them that. And then the parrot in the lobby was cool.
Yeah, the ambassador, Merlot, was their ambassador parrot.
But outside of that, the room sucked because the thermostat kept changing.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to check out our full video on Lost Girl in Tomorrowland. YouTube.
I shit you not. He thought I was raising the temperature.
No, I didn't think you were raising the temperature. That's not what I thought. At first, I just thought I was crazy and I wasn't getting it all the way down. And then I'd get up later in the same day and go to the temperature and be like, what is going on?
Well, you said you thought I was messing with it.
Am I not doing it?
Sure.
So then I would go to sleep, and then I'd get up and Nacy would already be gone. I'm like, oh, maybe she turns the temperature up so that it's easier to get dressed or whatever. Okay. And then finally, there was a day we were there together, and I'm like, are you messing with the thermostat? And she's like, no, I thought you were. And I'm like, I'm not touching the thermostat. But for some odd reason, it keeps getting raised.
Mm-hmm. And it's not that it, like, turned off. It just raised the temperature.
Yep. You can't turn it off.
Yeah.
So you can't even physically turn it off. Yeah. We are so off topic on the Hyatt, though. We were just supposed to be talking about the Hilton and Marriott.
But just to give you a little flavor of that, we don't just stay in one or the other.
True.
We do stay in a variety of different hotels. And as of right now, Marriott is definitely my favorite.
I mean, if we go to another Marriott and they upgrade us again without asking, You've won me over, Marriott. Keep working yourself, but you've won me
and
over.
I will gladly #not sponsored sponsor anything for Marriott at this point. I will choke on some Marriott dick. But
that's a good way to go your pitch. Pitch it and then make sexual terms. It's a good idea.
They'll never find this.
You never know.
Anyways, but yes, I love Marriott as of right now. And
got me too.
I'm going to be going back to Charleston a bunch now. They use Hilton, and they use Home to Suites specifically, and it's a great Home to Suites. And I get Hilton points for those stays, but I may try to look for a Marriott extended stay. That is one thing though that I think Marriott doesn't do well is extended stays, because majority of the extended stays I have stayed in are very outdated compared to Hilton's Home to Suites. Just saying.
No, that's true. That's a good point. I haven't stayed at any of the Marriotts. I don't think extended stays. So.
Yeah, so I may try to do that so I can start acquiring some Marriott points. But as of right now, I'm taking advantage of the fact that my contract has that hotel in it, and I don't need to pay up front for that hotel.
Yeah.
So I'm appreciative of that, and I'm just going to continue that, which is just going to give me a buku bunch of Hilton points, which maybe I can take and turn them into their fancy hotel and give that a go on just points. As of right now,
the Four Seasons, or is that?
Yeah, I think it's the Four Seasons. But as of right now, I still have not earned enough for one night in a Four Seasons, and I have stayed over 100 nights this year with Hilton. Just put that in your bag and take that to the bank.
I thought you were going to say smoke, and I'm like, wait, why are you angry at these people? They're not doing anything to you.
But no, I mean, it's interesting that the hotel points, I'm glad to accumulate them and hopefully dispersely use them for different things. But
it helped us in New York City.
But yeah, but we've stayed at so many that I'm like, why don't I have any more points than what I already have?
No, I get that. Basically every other day so far this year, we've been at a hotel, maybe some days more.
So, but we'll see how many Hilton points I end up with by the end of this year, I guess. Because I don't know, like I said, if I'm going to look for Marriotts this year or maybe next year. But we do stay at Marriotts when we do our personal hangouts or if we're doing stuff for the channel and we have a choice.
Yeah, we will go Marriott.
We will go Marriott.
Yeah. Unless it's Vegas, then it's a hoopla.
Yeah, then there's like really not a whole lot there. But I do want to stay at the Disneyland Hotel.
Yes.
100%. At some point before I leave.
100%. Which is a good segue because you're talking about leaving.
But yeah, I do want to stay at the Disneyland Hotel, and there's no points for that unless you have the Disney Visa credit card and you can save up your points, which then you can turn into Disney gift cards. But that's about the closest thing to a Disney rewards.
Well, you can't have a credit card, but you can go on Amazon, put some points on a Visa card, and have it called a credit card.
So, there's that. There's that piece. But, so this trip to Orlando was for us to kind of...
Well, no, first and foremost, it was for your concert. Or your conference.
Yeah.
That was first and foremost.
And secondly, we wanted to go back to the parks, which we did.
Yeah.
Briefly. And we wanted to see if we could potentially see ourselves coming back to Orlando. Like, what was the general feel when we left? Was it, I could see myself coming back here? Or was it like, maybe we'll just keep coming back occasionally for visits?
So we don't hate Las Vegas. We do enjoy the city.
Yeah.
But we've basically done all the strip attractions except for going to the top of the Eiffel Tower. We've done all of them.
Yeah.
There's a couple other little things across town that we still want to do. But we're kind of done with Vegas. Unless we want to start staying at more hotels on the strip, which doesn't really interest us because, again, we live in hotels. That's not really something that we're passionate about
if I'm going to stay in a hotel, I want it to be a hotel I want to be in.
And we'll talk about that, too, in a second. Or the other reason is we'd have to get into gambling, which we don't really do. And like Nancy said with the hotels, it's not just that they're hotels. They're all the same.
Pretty much,
There's always a casino. There's always smoking. It's always super noisy as soon as you get out of the elevator. Now, when you're in your floors, for most of them, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get out of the elevator, you're overwhelmed with these sounds. All of these people are either one of two things. They're rushing to try to make their money, or they're pissed because they've already lost all of it. So there's no one relaxing and chilling at these places. It's all just constant
money,
stress, stress, you know?
Yeah, it's not a place I think that is relaxing. Now, don't get me wrong, there are probably pieces that you could find randomly, but it's not the common theme to just be at a resort chilling by the pool, relaxing. That's not Vegas environment. If anything, I would relate it close to what the energy of New York City is supposed to be, because it is a 24/7 city. Especially on the Strip, it's 24/7. Now, since COVID, the rest of Vegas isn't so much a 24/7 city like it used to be. There are still things that are a 24/7 thing here, but it's a go, go, go kind of environment in the middle of the desert.
And then you add to the top of that, most of the rooms are so outdated. Like when we stayed at the MGM Grand, the room was moldy. It smelled like mold. It was
the fixtures
super tiny.
were weird.
Yeah, it was really dark. And now I'm sure there's really nice hotel rooms in Vegas, but they're super expensive. The rest of them are all just like these boring, everyday hotel rooms that it's like, okay, and like, why would I want to come to this place?
I think when we first started doing some stays on the Strip, we were kind of excited to hopefully see hotel theming again.
Yeah.
And then the more stays we started to do, the more the same they started to look.
Yeah.
And not just the hotel room itself, because there are some differences, but every resort, every casino has the same layout. Like Gary said, you've got your pool area, you've got your huge casino floor. Some have a little bit of shopping, some have a lot of shopping. Some have a lot of restaurants, some have a couple restaurants, some are really shitty food, some are better food, but it's all pretty much the same. And even when you start to really look at like the Bellagio or Caesar's Palace, while they do have certain areas that keep up most of that thematic element, there's a lot where it just, just drops off. And it's like, okay, why is this any different than me going to a city I want to go to and stay in that hotel?
Yeah. Well, and that's what we were sort of wrestling with, because it's like, okay, when we get home, we don't want to be like, let's go to a hotel and stay for videos, which is what we'd have to do if we stay here. I mean, really it is. We get home, we'd have to be like, all right, let's go to another hotel. We'd never be home. We'd never be able to cook for ourselves. And as much as we don't do that all that often, cook for ourselves, it's nice to be able to.
Yeah, this week is probably the first week in a while that I have really tried to like be home and cook and clean. And yes, it's a bit of a mess. And yes, it does cost money at the grocery store. But to not feel like I have to get dressed and I have to go out and I have to go play nice with the servers or find parking, and then I can't drink if I wanted to have a drink with dinner. Not that we have been drinking, but like, you know, you have to drive home, and sometimes that's traffic, and sometimes it's a bit annoying if you want to go down to the Strip and have dinner, and you got to pay for parking.
Yeah.
So it's been nice being home. And on the flip side too, not even just us going and doing hotel stays on the Strip. If we stayed here, we probably would be looking at other cities to do videos in, because we're not really interested in doing the Strip stuff. So again, that's a double whammy of one, duplicated costs on top of what we're already paying, but two, we're never going to be home at all. Like not even close enough to just drive home that night if everything goes to shit.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, well, why would we stay here? Because we would just be paying $2,000 a month to store our shit.
Yeah.
And there are storage units that are far cheaper than that.
Right.
And that's not really where we're headed yet. That's not really where we envision 2024 for us in terms of like us spending a lot of time on the road. We still want to be able to come back to creature comforts and be in our own space.
Yeah.
So that leaves us with the question of like, okay, well, if we're not going to stay here, where are we going to go that is going to allow us to be home in our own bed more often than not.
Yeah, and we have to be able to create content for the channel.
Yes.
So it has to have both those sort of combination of things.
And with the change in financials in the next year with student loan debt coming back into rotation, what's going to be more financially feasible for us too, where we could potentially cut some costs so that we can deal with becoming financially free.
Right. So those are the things we're taking into account when we're thinking about these places. Now, a couple places came up for us. Now, we can obviously move to a different apartment in Vegas. That's an option.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, again, the channel issue becomes the problem staying in Vegas. We considered Anaheim. That's on the list.
And we both really like Anaheim.
Yeah.
We love the weather. We like California in general, but it comes with a heavy price tag.
Yeah, the business taxes would significantly increase, and then the other taxes too would significantly increase.
Our personal living expenses would increase when it comes to rent, gas, even though we don't use a lot of fuel. Gas would definitely come into play, and like vehicle stuff. And now the positive is we would be closer to LAX for flights, and maybe
which would be hopefully some shorter flights,
which would give us like easier access to flights since LAX is a hub. Mm-hmm. So there is that benefit, but again, we kind of go back to, okay, so where is the channel going to go in Anaheim? Which we would probably do the same thing that we're thinking for Orlando. We would probably get an annual pass, start there, but we would definitely have to downsize in terms of how big of a place. Because one, we need a studio, office, and then we need a bedroom.
Yeah. Well, and to add on to that too, Universal isn't as close. So if we want to do Universal as well, that would be more of a drive than it is in Orlando, which is sort of self-contained.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, and we don't really know a whole lot about living in California.
True.
We've never lived in California.
But the weather
is amazing.
The people seem wonderful. The shopping is pretty straightforward from what we saw when we were there. So it does have some advantages. And then we thought about Orlando.
Yeah, so we have talked about moving back to Orlando since the day we left. Just kind of hit or miss, peppered in conversations. And when we moved to New York, I think it was always kind of in the back of my head that, well, just because we're leaving now doesn't mean we can't ever come back, which is true. And that's true for anybody. Just because you leave a city and you move away for whatever reason, it does not necessarily mean that you will never get to come back or that you won't ever get the opportunity to move back. Now, it may take longer than you thought, but it's never a sold done deal. So that's always been kind of in the back of my head for the last couple of years. But I think when we left New York and we moved to Vegas, we were like, this is a new city. I think there's a lot of potential here. And it's true. There is a lot of potential here. There is a lot to do here. The difference is everything costs a lot of money here. Two, I think in terms of social media marketing and who our audience is when it comes to Las Vegas stuff, I don't think they're long-term committed subscribers. I think they're people who want to learn, go do their vacation, and then they forget about Vegas. It's kind of off the radar. It's not something that's perpetually in their mind like Disney. And we were just kind of like, well, we don't want to go back to Disney. We don't want to go back to Orlando because then it's just easy. And are we taking the easy way out?
Well, my fear with Disney, kind of expanding on what you said, is that you're seeing it now with a lot of Disney vloggers. They're sort of trying to get away from Disney, but they can't do it. And we did it. We got away from Disney. We lost probably like a quarter of our channel at the time, but we got away from Disney. And it is easier to do the vlogs because we just returned from there, and we could do 5 or 6 a day easily. And that's just the mornings. You know what I mean? We could just do that in the morning. We got 3 videos cranked out in one morning there, just doing different food and going to the parks and,
Yeah.
So it's so easy. It's so straightforward, and people watch it. People watch our Disney stuff still on our channel, probably the most over the Vegas stuff.
And I think in when you're looking at Vegas stuff, people want to do more like, let me learn about this so I can plan my trip. Whereas Disney, there is a market for that, for planning your trip. But in general, a lot of people, especially Disney adults, just like to watch people going to the park, having fun, and having sort of that shared experience.
Right. Because they can put themselves into their shoes and be like, I've been there. I know what that's like. It's awesome.
And sometimes, and don't get me wrong, and I'm guilty of this too, not that it's anything you should ever feel guilty for, but like there were definitely days when we were in New York and I was just like, I was having a really tough time being where we were. And I would turn on Disney vlogs and I would be like, that's my happy place. I'm going to get to go back there one time. But I enjoyed watching people have that experience and thus having that shared experience with them. And I think that's more the market and more the long-term YouTube subscribers. Now,
travel, I agree with that. That's there. You don't get an argument from me for that. Yeah.
And I think with us going back to, or if we decide to go back to Orlando, I think in terms of the direction for the channel, I think, yes, we may start showing way more Disney content, but I think we're going to definitely strive to not lose the travel part that we've discovered, where we enjoy going to new places and we enjoy trying new things. But I think being in Florida will give us the option to do more home vlogs and do more stuff locally so we can go to sleep in our own bed at night.
Yeah, like you talked about, we can go to a Disney diner and just go there.
Or we can explore Florida.
So some of the benefits from Orlando, if we get an annual pass, it's a one-time fee to go to the parks. So if we pay the $1,000-something, which by the way is way inflated, and I think it should be lower.
It was $870 the last time I renewed my annual pass.
It's crazy. But that's for another topic for another day. Yeah. We agree with you. We're just not arguing that part today. So let's say we get an annual pass. It's about $1,200, whatever, $300. But that's it. Then we can go to the park as much as we want for 365 days.
Yeah.
And get as much content as we can just out of that.
And here's some girl math for you, because this is what's basically been going around the internet. So I'm just going to take $1,300 roughly. We're going to round up just because that makes math easier. And you divide that by 365 days. That's $3.56 a day.
Can you pause that for a second? What makes it easier? You're doing it on a calculator. Either way would be easy.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, I'm going to break this down for you. So you take the cost of your annual pass and you divide it by every day. Now, don't get me wrong. You're probably not somebody who's going to go to the park every single day of the year. But
we could as vloggers do.
We definitely could. If we were in town, we could definitely go. So for less than a Starbucks coffee a day, and let's be honest, you can get an annual pass. And I'm sure that is what the people upstairs, the big wigs at Disney, are touting to each other. And that's how they make sure they can keep this normal for us. I'm pretty sure that's what they're thinking. But the cost comparison is pretty easy. And then there's no other cost. Your parking is covered.
Yep.
You get discounts on merchandise, which comes and goes. It goes from 10 to 30%, just given whatever time of year it is.
Yeah, but if you're doing videos, that's not really our focus. We don't really do merch
and then you do get some Disney dining discounts in the park, which, cool. And again, getting that top tier pass, you have access to the park every day that you can get a park reservation. Currently, that is a downside to Disney's current system. Right. But I have a feeling,
which is one of our hesitancies.
I have a feeling that is going to go to the wayside in 2024.
Especially how bad the parks are doing.
I would not be surprised if January 2024 they say what they say, but then you never have to get a park reservation.
But if you pause and think about that though. So unlike Vegas, like we've already said, you have to pay for everything. There we have an annual pass, 53 cents a day, whatever, 55 cents a day, somewhere like that, depending on, I'm not sure what the actual total amount was when it comes to like how much an annual pass actually cost. So it's like 54 cents a day. Awesome. But that's not even it, is it? Because then you can get Universal, then you can get SeaWorld, and you have like
the trifecta.
You have like 12 parks you can go to.
Yeah, because SeaWorld comes with Busch Gardens.
And you're probably at most paying what, like $2,000 for all of them?
Yeah.
So $2,000, just rough estimate here for all of those parks. And you have all of that stuff to cover. Even if you just did one section of it and talked about each ride, you could literally make a year's worth of content.
Yep.
Probably with even less of them, but with $2,000. You can't do anything like that in Vegas. That's what I mean. That's when we're talking about the channel. We can't do anything like that in Vegas.
There's nothing that's like an annual pass. There's nothing that is childlike, that it lets you just kind of pay an admission price and spend all day just having fun. Yeah. There's not really anything like that because Vegas is an adult's paradise, so to speak. And I definitely don't necessarily want to see them bring more family-friendly stuff here because it's bad enough kids shouldn't be here to begin with.
Right, agreed.
So there's that whole aspect. The food in Vegas is amazing. Yes. We've had amazing food, and it is expensive food too. So when we went back to Disney, us paying for some of these restaurants, I was like, really?
They were like a quarter of what we'd spend in Vegas for less sometimes. I
was like, okay, well, this isn't okay.
And another hidden benefit that people probably don't talk that much about. So Vegas wants you to share all this stuff on social media, but they don't want you to take any pictures or cameras. So
it's weird.
How you're supposed to share it, that's a question that I still don't understand, and we've done this a lot. But you always get frowny faces when you're vlogging. Nacy talked about in the last vlog with Spirit Halloween, people were like crowding around us watching us film. It's just different. You go to Orlando, not even a wink. Other than the cast members, every time they saw me with my camera, they would wave to my camera. But yet if we'd go past one and my camera would be at my side, cast members wouldn't say a thing to us. We would just walk past. They weren't rude or anything, but they were just, you know, in their own world. But if you lift that camera up, hey, what's up over there? With a nice wave, and you're just like, this is so weird.
And
that
it's
people
nice.
actually want it, you know?
So, you know, there's definitely an ease. And we had conversations when we were in New York and when we were here. We're like, we don't need to come back to Orlando. That's just lazy. That's just easy. It would be so easy to just go back there. Well, let's challenge ourselves. And don't get me wrong, I can appreciate challenging ourselves to really step out of our comfort zone because we've vlogged in some stressful places.
Well, I think if you didn't travel for work, we're having a different conversation.
Yeah.
Because then travel is part of our channel. You know what I mean? But right now, travel is part of our channel, whether we want it to be or not. So why do we want to have this other component of travel when we're not traveling? You know what I mean? It would just be travel all the time.
And I do think eventually there will probably come a time where we do decide to maybe not be home as much and maybe travel more. But as of right now, I can honestly say the biggest thing that I miss the most when I'm on the road is my home.
Yeah.
I really do. I miss my bed. I miss my stuff. And I love being on the road. Like, us being able to travel the way we've been able to travel has been awesome.
Agreed.
And we've done amazing things because of it.
Yeah.
So I am very thankful for that aspect of it. But deep down, we miss being able to be home and really be home long enough to enjoy it. And sometimes with the type of content that we want to get for the channel, we want to do more Disney stuff. But that requires us traveling and staying the night in a hotel. And sometimes we just don't want to do that after we've been gone for so long.
Right. So in fairness to Orlando, we should talk about a couple of the negatives.
Traffic.
So traffic's a big one. Now, when we got close to Disney property, it wasn't that bad, though.
No, and I think it definitely depends on what side of Orlando you're at and what side of Orlando you're trying to go to.
Yes. So when we lived there, we didn't do much in the actual city of Orlando. We were mostly Disney, basically that side. We would mostly stay to that side of Orlando. I would say the other big thing, though, is toll roads, which sort of piggyback on traffic. The amount of toll roads out there is unreasonable and not okay.
You can still get around without the toll roads, but you're going to pay for it with your time.
And you're not going to be able to use GPS because GPS will take you on toll roads, even if it's one freaking exit. They'll be like, oh, go down this toll road.
So you either have to make sure you have a lot of money on your toll pass and you correctly used your toll pass, because there is a whole debate, which it's funny the Uber driver brought it up, but I'd forgotten all about it until he had brought it up. But there's like a whole fight between E-Pass and SunPass. And if you go through a SunPass with an E-Pass, they're going to triple charge you and vice versa. So while you can use those tolls on all the toll roads, like SunPass works on all the toll roads, but you're going to be charged differently based on who your provider is. Now,
and which lane you're in on the highway.
I can say, at least from what I remember, E-Pass gave me the better rate when it came to driving the Florida toll roads. But SunPass was like a total nightmare. E-Pass was, they both had this whole issue back in 2018 when we lived there, where they couldn't keep up with the e-tolls.
Yes.
And we were getting billed. I can't speak for everybody, but for us, we were getting billed months after we left New York.
Yep.
Months.
Yep. When you went to renew your license.
And they just kept coming. And I was like, and I would pay it. I would check it and I would pay it. But it just kept coming. And those were all tolls that were for work that I never got the opportunity to bill for because I no longer worked for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare.
And it was probably over $300 worth of tolls.
Now, the Uber driver did say that there was some kind of law that was passed there so that if you do over 200 a year, you can somehow take over the anything over 200 you can do out of your taxes or something like that.
So you get it back. So we may look into that.
So further. I'd like to find out if that's real before we make the decision, but that does definitely lessen that, because then we would just get the chains. You put $200 on it and you know everything after that's going to basically be.
So, yeah.
And then the other thing that goes with traffic is police presence is ridiculous in Orlando.
And it's definitely more heavy-centric in the tourist areas.
Oh, yeah. But we passed so many cops on the interstates,
even on Disney property,
on the highways, on Disney property. I mean, it was just like there's all these like hidden cars doing their traffic stops.
Yeah, so you have to be somebody who's really, if you have to be somebody who's aware of traffic laws and make sure you are following the traffic laws, because Florida cops don't fuck around. And they ain't going to let you off with a warning.
Well, I mean, they can. It's the revenue for the city. They're basically driving their own revenue.
Yeah, so and Celebration was the worst when we were there.
Yes.
Celebration was the absolute worst.
So that I'm hesitant. Those are some of the big things. The other big thing for me is hopefully the bubble will have burst there, and I think it will by the time we get ready to move, because hopefully that'll bring down rental prices and stuff. Not that they're not comparable with Las Vegas, which is ridiculous to even say. They still need to come down.
Yeah, they're definitely rental prices for the apartment we were renting. And I looked this up myself. It was about $1,300 was what we were paying for the apartment that we lived in before we came to New York. It's now going for about $2,100.
Yes, it's just...
And nothing's changed. Don't get me wrong. It was a decent...
Changed. It's changed. It's went downhill.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's
I'm sure that's it. But, you know, nothing... It's not like... It's a new complex. It's a newer complex.
Yeah.
But I don't think that place was worth $1,300 when I rented it. And I sure don't think it's worth $2,100. But here's the other kicker. For the same amount of money, that $2,100 to $2,500 range, we could just rent a house and have more space, have a guaranteed 2-car garage.
Which is probably what we're going to look into, because just because of that, honestly. We don't want to park our cars out on the sidewalk.
Because it's so hard. It's so hard to find an apartment in Florida that has an attached 2-car garage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even in Vegas, it was kind of hard to find townhouses that had attached garages.
Well, in Vegas, it's hard to find actual luxury rentals, too. I mean, it's kind of weird here.
That's another reason we want to piece out. And, like, I'm okay with an older house. I'm fine with an older house as long as some features are modernized. Like, I'd like to have a decent fridge, and I'd like to have a decently sized kitchen, and I'd like to have at least a 2000 style bathroom.
As long as it's not Chestnut Special, I'm good with that.
Right? And in terms of the area, I think we're probably going to look basically in the same area we used to live in. the last time because we like the proximity to the parks, and there are back roads that you can take. There are things you can do to avoid I-4. So we'll see. Our lease isn't up until next spring, and we'll probably really start crunch time will probably be January, February, for us to make another trip back out there and see what we can find, because we'd have to go out there, sign a lease, and be ready to move.
If you're on Spotify, you can always check out, we put a questionnaire up, a poll to sort of measure where you guys think we should go. We'll take that into consideration too when we're thinking.
But in terms of where I want to go, because we said we were going to save this, and it's no secret to him because I've been talking about it since we left. But I think I want to move back to Orlando.
Wow, that's really surprising.
So shocking.
So shocking.
And what about you?
I'm still kind of up in the air. I have to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am leaning to go back to Orlando. There's other benefits too. It would be closer for your job and stuff, closer to my family. But then there's some negatives that's closer to your family. So there's just some things that, we'd have to figure out.
But yeah, I think I want to go back to Orlando because, like, at the very least, like, we can go to Disney Springs and hang out. We can go to City Walk and hang out.
Yeah.
There's still luxury shopping in Orlando at Mall Millennia. Not that I need to be shopping right now because we're trying to not spend money on stuff. But yes. Just being able to go back to having those, like, fun moments, like on Frozen or riding Ratatouille and having that silly moment in line, like being able to have those moments again, like I felt recharged.
That's good. I'm glad you
after going to Disney World, which is weird because yes, it was busy, and yes, we spent money, and yes, it was hot and all that other stuff, but I felt like for the first time in a long time, because I like Disneyland. I do, but it's a new park. It doesn't have as much nostalgia to it as I find Walt Disney World does for me. So like going back and having those moments again in the places we had those moments before just filled my cup up a little. And I felt
That's good. I'm glad.
I felt like, okay. And, I had the same feelings when I lived and worked in Orlando the last time. Like, Disney was my happy place. I could go there, and I felt like, for the most part, most days, I came home just a tiny little bit happier because I got to do something that I like to do.
Yeah.
So, at least that's for me.
So you have to let us know, audience, what you think about our moving options. And otherwise, that'll conclude Awkward Chats for September 2023.
And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you want to keep following this podcast, follow and subscribe to us on podcasts.
And don't forget to head over to YouTube at Lost Girl in Tomorrowland if you want to see our video adventures that we pretty much talk about on the show.
Yeah. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your month. And we will see you guys in October.
Yeah, we'll come and get you in October for some spooky specials. Bye, y'all.
Bye.